I think it was only around 14 or 15 when I actually had like this very kind of clear goal in my mind that I wanted to become a professional footballer. When I was like on the plane flying off, or just before I got on the plane, like in the airport, the list for the next kind of national call out comes out for the under 19 team, and my name was on that list. And I'm here in the airport, like ready to leave.
Bro, one thing I admire about you, Sunil, is your ability to quickly turn an idea into an actual product or service. What is the process you go through when you get an idea and then okay, let's turn this into a reality?
I think for me, again, I think you have to boil it back down to football, right? In football, you don't have much time to think, right? Decisions have to be made on the spot. RetraRecovery, I think, just happened kind of overnight. I'd seen this kind of portable recovery thing that I'd seen online, and I was like, shit, there's like a direct pain point for me. I felt very kind of low at that time. My girlfriend said it's probably the most like depressing at the time, because what ends up happening is your whole life revolves around that one thing, right? So when that one thing is not going well, don't kind of dwell in your failures, right? I think there's always more opportunity out there than people see.
I think I'm the guy, bro. I think I'm the guy.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the third episode of Leaders Unlocked. Today I'm joined by Sunil Chandran, a former professional footballer who spent 3 seasons in the Malaysian Super League playing for PJ City and Perak FC. After a series of critical injuries, including a second ACL tear, Sunil decided it was time to turn the page and begin a new chapter. Since then, he's co-founded and launched multiple ventures, all built around his love for fitness and sports. These include Transform Fitness, a coaching business, City League, where he runs his own 11-a-side and 7-a-side competitions, including a league for women's, Output Sports, a UK-based wearable device brand distributed regionally, RetraRecovery, an e-commerce brand, and most recently where we're at right now, Balr Cutz, a sports-themed barbershop. Everything he's built channels his passion for sport into creative ventures, with the goal of transforming the fitness and sports industry within the region one business at a time. Thank you for joining me on the show, Sunil.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we get into football, business, and everything else, I want to go back to the foundation. So what do I need to know about your early life to really understand your journey?
I think I came from a sports-loving family. So growing up, I've always had or been exposed to sports. I think from a very young age, 2-3 years old, I think my earliest memories would be just kind of going to the garden of my house, kicking the ball with my dad. Even my cousin, I think, was quite a pivotal icon in my life. He was a few years older than me. Never competed at the highest level or anything, but would just literally like take me to play futsal with his friends.
What was your cousin's name?
His name is Keshav. So yeah, Keshav used to, I think, keep me included with a lot of things. I think that's not very common to kind of bring your younger cousin, younger brother around with you, especially when there was a significant, I think, gap in terms of skill level. But I think what that enabled me to do, so I think from as early as like 6-7 years old, and he would be like 11, 12 at that time, what that allowed me to do was kind of play with people who were much better than me. So I think that kind of exposed me to a whole other thing where I had to actually step up my game. So yeah, I think that's a bit of background, yeah.
And aside from sports, bro, give me more context around what your teenage years were like, what your childhood was like, what was your relationship with your family growing up?
Yeah, I think so. Just a regular kid. Had a very decent relationship with my family. I've got a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. Both my parents, I think, have been very involved with my life from a very young age. So my dad, especially, I think, always used to take hours out of his weekends to shuttle me back and forth for football practice and stuff like that. I think my dad was working on weekdays, so my mom would take on the responsibility on weekdays. shuttling me back and forth to school for practices. So I didn't only used to play football. I think I was quite lucky to be exposed to multiple different sports growing up. So things like golf, squash, did a bit of tennis even. My mum was a runner, I think, in school growing up. So she was always very passionate about me in the kind of track and field space. I never competed, but I think at school level, so every kind of sports day, that'd be a big thing for me. Lucky enough to do both. I think with football being my main sport, and I think speed being kind of one of my biggest strengths at that time, I was, I think, lucky enough to compete in both kind of short distance and long distance events in school. So yeah, I think I went to Sri KL growing up. That was, I think, a very good environment for me because you were surrounded by a lot of, I think, competitive people, both in the sports realm and the education realm. So I think being in that kind of ecosystem allowed me to sort of push for greater heights. Yeah.
Great, man, great. So, were your parents very supportive, or did they play a big role in your footballing career, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said, my dad was pretty much always there. As much as I hated it sometimes, after every sort of game and tournaments, I'd be sitting in the car, win or lose, he'd give advice, feedback, what I did well, what I could have done better. I don't think I showed him enough kind of appreciation for it, but a lot of it was, I think, me just being a kid. After your game, you just want to be kind of left alone.
So that's why you hated it sometimes.
Yeah, I just kind of hated listening to feedback, listening to advice, but I'd be listening at the end of the day, right? So whether I show it or not, at the end of the day, I'm still kind of, I think, receiving the feedback and taking it in. And then the next time I'm playing or the next time I'm training, I'm sort of thinking about what he said. He never competed or played at a high level, but I think he was very passionate about football. Always watched a lot of football at home, always watched analysis of top level football. So a lot of the feedback he was giving me, at that time I may not have kind of appreciated it, but now thinking back, a lot of it was very good advice. So yeah, I think both mom and dad, I think, played a very pivotal role in my kind of sporting career. Growing up, both from a supportive point of view, I think they were there for me again at my lowest. I'm just the kind of guy when I fail, when I get disappointed, I like to be left alone. But they're always there trying to offer support and be there for me. Like I said, I may not have kind of showed them that appreciation, but yeah, I think thinking back, they were always there for me.
Okay. And so before this, we've met once before, right, Sunil? And I remember you describing, giving me a bit of context into your footballing career, etc. And one thing you mentioned was about your... Actually, this one I listened to a podcast, so I was able to find a podcast that you did back in 2022, the Journey podcast.
Yeah, with Oscar.
So just to give more context, and one thing you said was, and you mentioned this the other day as well, non-negotiables, right? Even right now, we get into this later, but your non-negotiables currently is like fitness, so you get a 1 hour workout in the morning, and then and in the evening you either play paddle or football. But back then, your non-negotiable was getting to school early at around 7 a.m. and school started at 8. Just to get in some drills, because at that point in time, when a lot of your mates were going into sports schools, your parents sort of didn't want you to do that because they didn't want your education to be compromised. So you stayed at Sri KL and you needed to find a way to work to make it work. How did you adapt your circumstances to develop an edge?
I think at that time I think it was only around 14 or 15 when I actually had like this very kind of clear goal in my mind that I wanted to become a professional footballer, right? And again, at that age, you don't really know how to make the right decisions. So I had offers to go to sports schools and stuff like that, but I think my parents felt that it wasn't the right decision, right? Staying in a school where I can still get the best education and being able to play at the same time was what they were advising me to do. Like I said, at that time, I didn't really agree with it. I still felt like if I had been in a sports school, I would have been able to excel a lot more. But at the same time, when I was in Sri KL with the circumstances I was in, I tried to make the most of it. So I would still be competing on the weekends and stuff like that with my peers who were in sports schools and stuff like that. So I think I just kind of made it my own responsibility in order to kind of work as hard as I could with the time I had. And yeah, at that age, it was, you're never like tired, right? So it was like morning, evening, school during the day. It just became, I think, part of my routine at one point where I enjoy doing it. So I enjoyed kind of having that time on my own to train. And yeah, I think I had the right support system around me, the right friends who would help me out and stuff like that as well. Yeah.
So how many times were you training in a day back when you were 14, 15?
It was, yeah, most of the time it was twice a day. 14, 15, I don't think I'd started going to the gym yet, but it was a lot of just running for fitness and then a lot of kind of technical work with the ball. Yeah, so my school didn't really have a football field, so actually to be fair,
Shrikale didn't have a football.
I didn't have a football field, so I had a futsal court. So I would be kind of playing futsal or training on a futsal court in the mornings before school sometimes. And then lunchtime would be the thing where all the boys would come down and play. So we'll go down early for lunch, have like a 5 or 10 minute lunch, sometimes even skip lunch. And then we've got like 30 minutes to play. And that thing was quite a big thing as well for me because like for my development, because in Srikal you have one big futsal court, right? Which could fit maybe 5, 6 people at most. But we'd be playing like 8, 9 aside. Sometimes 10, 12 aside. So the pitch would be like cramped, right? And I think that allowed me, or that kind of trained me to kind of play in tight spaces, So then when I got onto the football field, suddenly you have a lot more time and space, that you can play around with. So that was a big thing. Again, like I said, the level wasn't very high in school, but I think just the sheer number of people on the court, I think taught me a lot of different things. How do you deal with this? How do you get past 3, 4 people? And yeah, so I think it was that. And then after school, my mom would pick me up, head back home, rest for a bit. By like 5, 6 p.m., I'm like in the garden. Didn't really have a huge garden, but with whatever space I had, I tried to make the most of it. So just kind of most of the time by myself, kicking the ball against a wall, just doing different kind of drills. And then on the weekend, I'd have my team training sessions.
You're always that discipline, bro, because I think at that age, 14, 15, when I look back at, that time in my life, we're the same age, right? 14, 15, I was very academic focused throughout. I was always involved in sports as well, football, tennis, my main sports. But I don't think I had that level of discipline in any facet of my life, right? So I think until a later part of my life when I was like 17, 18. But I think, that's not something that is, I would say, normal for, a kid going to street Srikale, let's say, to a private school or any school, as a matter of fact, unless you're going to sports schools. Because, you're not being told to do that, right? You're not being told to go to school at 7 a.m. You're not being told to go home and then, alongside your studies, get a session in the garden and stuff. So when do you think did that discipline come on when you had, told yourself that, okay, I want to turn pro, or was it always there? Like, where did that discipline come from?
I would say my parents, I think, played a big part. They were always very, they try to ingrain kind of that discipline from a young age. So from things like bedtimes, for as long as I can remember, like as a kid, I think until I was like maybe 16, I had to be in bed by like 8:39. So
Until you were 16. Oh shit.
Until like 15, 16. I think until like maybe 14, 15. So I think I did PT 3 in form 3. I think until that year where I had to like stay up later to study, I literally it was like a 8:30, 9 p.m. kind of bedtime. So things from that to kind of waking up early on weekends for football, simple things like how it made me kind of study for exams. Just more of a strict routine, like certain times we're gonna sit together with the whole family for dinner. Just small things I think taught me how to organize my time and allocate time for certain things on my own, right? And I think one of the kind of core principles we had in our house was that education comes first. But at the same time, they never stopped me from doing sports, right? So I knew a lot of friends whose parents kind of stopped them or didn't really allow them to kind of push or like, you know, like invest a lot of time in sports. But I think my parents were very supportive of that. But the core principle that we had in the house was do as much as you want with your sport, as long as you maintain a certain level with your studies, right? The minute that level starts to drop with your education, that's when we're going to start to interfere with your sports. So for me, it was like, I'm going to continue trying to excel in both. Football for myself and education for my parents, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. One thing I want to touch on before we move on to your talking about your footballing career. So I can imagine that doing what you were doing at that age, right? So managing two things, so your academics and as well as your sports, and committing that, having that level of commitment, dedication to football at that age, at that young age, it could have been something that was unrelatable to your friend groups, and and when you're doing something that's unrelatable, you might have people be like, oh, I'm not sure if this is something you experienced, but it could have been that like someone would be like, bro, Sunil, why are you coming so early in the morning? Why are you putting so much work into football and stuff like that? And try and play your dreams down and stuff. Do you experience anything like that? Did you ever get lonely, or did you have a group of people that were aligned on your mindset?
Yeah, to be fair, like I said, I think I was very lucky or fortunate to be in an environment like I was, because not necessarily in football, but there were a lot of aspiring athletes, right? It may not be to be professional in their respective sports, but just to excel as much as they could within school or within like the state level. So I had a lot of like friends who wanted to be like runners, who wanted to wanted to play for the school volleyball team, stuff like that. So you'd be surprised, but like I wasn't alone, and that kind of helped a lot, I think, because it may not be my closest group of friends, but I had friends or I knew, or like 7 a.m. in Sri KL, you'd have multiple people out there training for their own thing. So I think I was really lucky that I had.
It's not a sports school, though.
It wasn't, no, nowhere close to being a sports school. In fact, like I think we were like
No football field, right?
yeah, inter-school level, like we would struggle, like for most sports, especially. We were good for like I think our gymnastics, our cheerleading, our swimming, but besides that, I think we weren't really very dominant in the sports field. But I think just people with a more mature mindset. So everyone knew like hard work can beat talent. So a lot of the people that were actually training were those that were kind of not very talented in their sport, but really got a kind of burning desire to do well in their sport, So you'd have people just kind of like running around the futsal court, doing sprints.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I think
that's crazy.
Yeah, in that sense, honestly, like I was, very fortunate because I wasn't alone, right? So anytime I felt like giving up or slowing down, you'd have these people to kind of look to, right? Yeah.
That's bro. So I went to Wesley, right? I'm not sure if you know Wesley Methodist, bro. I feel like my school was the opposite, bro.
Really? Yeah.
People going in at 7, but they've got a book open. Something. That's good to hear, though. That's good to hear. Okay, now let's move on to your footballing career. So you went to Loughborough, right? You studied sports science in the UK, and you in your last semester you had signed your pro contract with PJ City, and then March 21st, I think you had your first professional debut. So talk me through your footballing career, your pivot from PJ City to Perak FC.
Yeah, I think when it comes to footballing career, I just start just a few years before that. So I think obviously I was always playing and competing from a young age, but I think what really opened the doors was this program called Mencari Ramli. So I was on this program when I was 16, and to be fair, again, this was like sheerly luck. I had no plans in like taking part, but what Mencari Ramli is a nationwide selection where they kind of go to each state and host like a selection, and then from all the kind of participants, they would select, I think it was six players to go to Manchester United to train.
Oh wow!
For 2 weeks. So like I said, I had no plans on participating, but so happened I was in like one of my friends' place, like staying over at one of my friends' place, and he said he was going for the selection the next day. And he was like, "Do you want to tag along?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure, why not?" So I tagged along with him, and I think for the Selangor selections there were like 1,200 people.
This was under 16.
Under 16, yeah. And then, so you basically go through stages. So I think there were 4 stages. So it kind of gets cut by half and then cut by like 3/4. And then finally you're left with like 22 players and you play like a full match. So I was very lucky enough to kind of made it to the kind of final selection. And then from there, then they continue doing the same process in every state. And then they pick 20 boys from the whole of Malaysia to go into like a 1-week centralized camp. So yeah, I was very lucky to get selected for that. And then ended up being the 6th to go to Manchester United. So, but yeah, as great as that experience was, I think what it actually enabled me to, one, I think the belief and the confidence, like maybe I have it in me. And the second thing was it just kind of opened the doors for me, right? So right now you're the kind of top 6 in Malaysia, right, that have been selected for that age category. So immediately you start having kind of eyes on you from coaches and stuff like that. So immediately I got an offer actually from the Bukit Jalil Sports School, which at that time was the national team sports school. And that was a big thing for me because previously when I had offers for sports schools, it was all the kind of smaller state sports schools. But this was like essentially the national team back then. But yeah, so my parents obviously didn't allow me. And then we tried to like negotiate whether I could still study in my school and play there. And the coach was quite okay with it at one point. And then right then there was like a change of coaches. And the new coach that came in said, no, like if you want to play with us, you need to study here. So again, my parents were quite firm on, especially that I was already like my kind of last 2 years in. Yeah, so at that time I switched from the local syllabus to international. So yeah, my GCSE years. And at that time it was, yeah, they were quite firm with me kind of staying back and completing my year 11. But what that allowed me to do was, through that coach, he contacted another coach who was at PKNS. PKNS was a professional setup at that time, and allowed me to go into the kind of academy there. So when I was 17 in school, I was playing sort of semi-pro there with PKNS in an adults league. It was like the Selangor League at that time, which was good. It allowed me to kind of play and study at the same time in a professional kind of environment. And then from there, I stayed in PKNS for 3 years. Yeah, for 3 years. So moved up into the professional under-19 team and then the professional under-21 team. And yeah, like I think in my final year at PKNS, we actually won the Malaysian Youth League. So we won the under-19 league.
Is that the highest?
It's the highest for that level, for that age group. So competing with all your other state teams like your Selangor, your Kedah, your Kelantan, your Johor. So it's like the Malaysian Super League, but at a youth level. So yeah, we won that league. I had to be fair, I was flying off to uni that year. My flights were, I think, like early September or something like that. But the final was like mid or end of September. So literally I had to like change my flights just so I could play the final. Also, yeah, during that time at PKNS, there was one time where I was called up for the national under-19 team. So that was like a huge kind of...
Was that the first time you got a national team call-up?
First time. To be fair, no, there was one when I was like under-13 as well. I got dropped on the last day. So I was in the kind of, again, huge selection process, shortlisted. Finally, they shortlisted it down to like, it was like a 6-month kind of process of selections. And then finally, it's like 25 people that were sent for like a training camp. So I was in the 25. And then literally on the last day before leaving for the tournament, they can only like register 23 people. That's when they made the last cut. And I was like one of the 2 that got dropped. So yeah, it was very tough, I think, at that time. And then again in the under-19, same thing happened. So I was in the 23-man squad, but there was one boy, his name is Akir Rashid, who is like very kind of famous or well-known kind of player now. Great player. So he was playing in the under-23 squad at that time. So again, on the last day, just before leaving for the tournament, this guy who was actually our age, but was playing in the under-23 squad. We were under-19 at that time. He had come back down and said he's available to play for the under-19 team.
Rashid.
Yeah, so Akir Rashid said he's available. It was like a 50-50 thing. they weren't sure if he was going to be available because I think he had just finished like SEA Games or something for the 2 weeks before that. So they weren't sure if he was going to be available or not. And then I think on the day that we were like flying off our tournament, he said he was going to be available. So he came down and I was like, I think last on the list. So when he came, I got dumped. But honestly, like if it was anyone else, I would have been pissed. But because of him, because of his name and his caliber and how well he was playing at that time, I think it was a fair decision.
Were you guys playing the same position as well?
Yeah, similar position, attacking position. But yeah, so fast forward PKNS, we won the tournament, left for uni on a high, was very kind of hesitant on leaving at that time because I felt like after winning the National League, there'll be so many kind of opportunities that would come. True enough, bro, when I was like on the plane flying off or just before I got on the plane, like in the airport, the list for the next kind of national call-out comes out for the under-19 team and my name was on that list. And I'm here in the airport like ready to leave.
Bro, when these lists come out, do you get a call before these lists get published or?
The list doesn't get published directly. The list gets sent out to the teams first. So it was my coach who actually sent that list to me.
Okay.
So
must have been buzzing, but at the same time,
I was buzzing because I was like, this is another chance.
Because that time it was firm, right? It was solidified. Or was there? Or were you still competing?
When they do these call-ups, they call up like 25 to 30 people who go into like a camp, and then from there they kind of select 23 to go. So it's still not confirmed, but it was another kind of good chance at it, right? Yeah, so that was again a very difficult kind of decision for me because I'm boarding my plane in like 1-2 hours, but my dad was like, actually I was traveling with my mom, and then my dad had called us. She was like, you know what, so now just like go to uni, just take.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry at that time, but it was like a very hard decision, I think. But for me, I was ready. I had my bags all packed. I was like, okay, maybe it's a new chapter. Maybe it could be for the better, right?
Yeah. So, it's tough though. I mean,
it is, yeah.
Imagine, like being in that position, I would have been tempted to
I know.
Forgo the flight, right? Just stay back and.
I think a part of me,
what if, right? The what if.
The what ifs, correct. But I think a part of me was also like, if I stay back here, miss my flight, the whole uni thing's gonna be out of the way. And then if I don't get selected for the national team, that's also another thing, right? So I was like, you know what? Let me just take this gamble, go to uni, start fresh. And just got on the plane, went to uni, complete new environment. So Loughborough was the top uni for sports at that time. So literally just stepping onto campus was like a whole other experience. It felt like you were kind of stepping into like an Olympic village. State-of-the-art facilities. You've got like 8 football fields, 3 gyms. You have like an Olympians kind of training beside you in the gym. Like people that, to be fair, you don't even know. Like I never knew them. Obviously, you know the gold medalists and stuff, but these are like kind of Great Britain kind of athletes.
The next gen, right?
The next gen, some that even have been for the Olympics already. But obviously, just like unknown names. But like when I speak to like my uni mates, like, oh, do you know who's beside you? And I'm like, no. I was like, oh yeah, I was in the Olympics last year. So it was like an unreal stat. Like I think it was like the last Olympics or the Olympics before, where I think after kind of 5 days in the Olympics, if Loughborough University was a contingent in the Olympics, they would have finished like top 10 or something like that. So that's just, I think, the caliber of athletes that go there. So honestly, I was, I think, very kind of fortunate to be in that kind of environment. But at the same time, I think it was like a huge culture shock for me. Because go there, go for my football trials. Again, a few hundred people rock up, right? And these are all people who, obviously football in the UK is a whole other level, right? So these are people who have been in top academies in the UK, second, third tier academies in the UK. And you're kind of competing with like 500 to 600 people. And the hardest part about selection is actually being seen, right? Because with that number of people, you don't actually get much playing time, right? So
you gotta make your minutes count, right?
Right, whatever time you have, you need to kind of make it count, right? So I literally got selected for, luckily I got selected. The uni had 4 teams. A lot of them missed out, didn't even get a chance to be selected, but I got selected for the 4th team. But again, it was a huge culture shock, from playing kind of like the highest level at my age group here in Malaysia being almost called up for the national team, and then going there and only getting selected for the 4th team, right? But again, I think took it as a chance for me to prove something. Again, I had, I think, very good friends around me, so all similar mindset. I like four friends, 2 Japanese guys. Two good friends, 2 Japanese guys who actually were my housemates at one point, and all had similar goals of kind of playing for the first team in uni, right? So we worked really hard, training morning, going gyms in the afternoon, training again in the evening. I think true enough, like it paid off, and we made it. I'd make it to the first team. I had a few training sessions with the first team, but ended up playing with the second team, which was at a very high level. And I think being in Loughborough taught me a different side of football. Football in the UK is very physical.
For sure.
It made me, I think, emphasize the gym a lot more, and then learn the game a bit more, right? I was in Loughborough, and then COVID hit. There was the option of staying on in my room in uni, or maybe coming back. Again, it was another big decision to make. Parents wanted me to stay there, but I was like, you know what? Like, there's nothing happening in uni. There's no football. There's nothing going on. Literally, you just go to class, come back. Most of the classes are online, and that was already like October, November period. So it was COVID. Came back for a holiday. Went back there for my last year. Did like 2 or 3 months in my second last semester, and then again they were going into another lockdown. So I called my dad. I was like, the season in Malaysia is starting in like December, Jan. I want to come back and try my shot, right? Finally, he was okay with it, so I came back. And again, so PJ City were having trials at that time. Or when people come back at that time, when people come back from overseas, they had to be in kind of lockdown. So I had to do like a 2-week quarantine in a hotel.
Oh, okay. Right. You were in that batch, okay?
I was in that batch, yeah. So came back, got put into a hotel. And as nice as that sounds, being in a hotel for 2 weeks, it's dreadful because you're locked within the four walls of your room, right? And for me, it was like I knew there were trials going on the minute I get out of this thing. So it's like, how the hell do I keep fit in this hotel room? So I literally called my mom. Was like, can you send those kind of adjustable dumbbells? So she sent me a set of those, sent me resistance bands.
That's crazy.
Got it sent up to my room. And then literally it was me 4 or 5 times a day. Obviously, I had nothing else to do in the room. So just making the most out of it, literally with mineral bottles of water, trying to dribble.
I think at the highest level in anything, right, whether it's sports or whether you're a writer or you're in academics, I think it's about staying ready rather than getting ready. So I think right there what you did was a representation of that.
Honestly, yeah, I think for me it was, I'm going to get kind of one shot at this. I know there'll be few different kind of selections, but when I get out of this hotel room, I got one shot of this, right? And I knew I was fit, right? I knew I was fit coming back from the UK because we were training like shit before that. But then it was now I'm going to be in this room for 2 weeks, and fitness goes away so fast. So I was like, if I sit here for 2 weeks doing nothing, I'd say, I'm going to start from...
That's the thing about fitness, bro. Fitness gym, it humbles you. You have to be consistent.
Honestly. It's like you work so hard for something, but it goes away like that, right? So
you gotta work just as hard to keep it, right?
Yeah. So after coming out, there were some dates for selections that were posted. The first one was PJ City. I live in PJ, so it was like a hometown club for me. Perfect. Again, the same. I think it was the same. Yeah, I think it was the same friend who invited me to go for the...
Who's his friend?
His name is Emmanuel. He never ended up playing. Still one of my closest friends. But yeah, again, so I went for trials with him. He stayed over in my house that day. So actually, it wasn't a trial for the professional team. So we were going for a trial for the under-21 team at that time, right? So the under-21 team trials were at 9:30 a.m. or something. And just so happened that day, both Emmanuel and I woke up early. We were up at 7:30 or something. Not sure if it was excitement or nerves. But we were up at 7:30 and we're like, you know what, let's just go early. So we get there at around 8:30. Our trial was only an hour. But what ended up happening was, at 8 a.m., the professional team was training. We're doing their selection. Actually, they were training because pretty much most of the squad was already selected. So they were training at 8 a.m. And so happened they were short of one player. So, and there were two of us there, me and Emmanuel, right? And the coach literally comes up to the stand that we're sitting on, and he's like, "Do one of you want to join us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So literally went, joined them for training. It was just a training session, but it was good because I could make a small impression, right? And then managed to speak to the coaches after. Lucky enough, the technical director, who's the guy who kind of oversees the whole team, he was actually English from the UK. So when I had a chat with him after the training, I kind of told him about my experience in Loughborough and stuff like that. He's like, "Oh shit, that's like really cool and like really good uni." Then I kind of told him about my plans to kind of play pro here, and he was, I think, very kind of supportive of that. So honestly, I think I'd kind of attribute or like give it to him because he was the one who kind of pushed my name to the coach, pushed my name to the management. Was like, you should give this guy a chance. He's fast. At that time, I was built physically quite well compared to the rest of the team. So he was like really trying to push for me. Coach was a bit hesitant because obviously I got no experience at the Super League level at that time. But yeah, he kept pushing for me, and true enough, got invited back for training with him a few times.
Let's fast forward to your first ACL injury, right? So you're still at PG City. 3 weeks into preseason, you're looking forward to a new season. I think you had a good first season, and the night before you had anxiety anticipating the new season, right? So you said this on your podcast as well. And you got out at 1 a.m. You put pen to paper. You started writing out your goals, your resolutions for the new season, and a roadmap of how you were going to make them reality. It was just a friendly match, and the day after you had a friendly match with a lower division team. You actually scored one and assisted two, and your confidence was peaking right at that point. And boom, just like that. I think in the last minute, it wasn't even like a tackle you had to go in for, and your foot got planted, and the opposition's leg or knee came into the back of your knee, and then you just heard it and you felt it and you knew it. I think injury is one of the worst things that any athlete can go through or endure. And you said this, right? You said this that I really like. So you said pain wasn't even in my head at that point. It was more so what was going to happen in the months to come, right? Because it was a big season for the club as well as for the national team. You had the SEA Games under 23, and you were qualified for that, as in you were under 23 at that point. Talk to me about the mental struggles of any athlete going through an injury.
It's tough. I think injuries can be short, can be long, but they have, I think, a lasting impact, both physically and mentally, I think, right? I think the hardest thing is not really the rehab. The hardest thing, I think, is being away from your teammates, right? The FOMO, I think, is real, right? Seeing your teammates kind of compete, train without you. That part, I think, is the hardest bit, right? Not knowing when you're going to come back. I mean, you'll have a rough estimate, but not knowing if you'll be able to come back at the same level. Seeing, I think, your teammates kind of progress while you're kind of just trying to fight to get back there, right? Yeah. So I think that's the hardest part. And then it's a very, I think, lonely place because it's not like you've got 5 other people with the same injury at the same time as you, right? So you're alone fighting your own battles mentally, physically. So yeah, it is a very, very lonely place when you're injured.
In a way, I would say it's a form of grief, right? Having to, grieving the opportunity cost of missing out on the season. So my last episode was with Christian, I mentioned to you, right? So he was a former national tennis player. He was number 1 as well. So for him, the grief was different. Like he decided that not to end his career in tennis, but stop pursuing a professional career. And basically, his 2 phases of dealing with the grief was avoidance and acceptance. And listening to your podcast as well, I think you experienced the similar phases, right? I guess your avoidance was you say you used to enjoy reading motivational books, but for the first week or 2, you weren't picking up motivational books because you weren't even feeling motivated, right? And you were binge watching Netflix and stuff, and then 2 weeks later, that's the acceptance phase, right? You decided to start planning. You flipped the switch, and so talk me through those 2 phases, and go into the depths of it.
Yeah, I think like the first phase, right? It's hard to describe, but it's like you're at a stage or you're at a frame of mind where like you don't feel like doing anything. You've kind of just like given up. Not given up, but just like you don't have the energy to do anything, right? Like everything, the end goal feels so far away at that point because you're like rock bottom, right? So the vision of that goal or that dream just feels kind of untouchable at that point, right? So at that time, like I said, you just don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing any of your rehab. You didn't feel like watching football, didn't feel like talking about sports. Wanted to kind of put myself as far as possible away from sports in general.
That was the avoidance phase.
Correct, avoidance of sports in general. Watching sports, talking about sports, YouTube videos about sports, anything. Because anything sports related will kind of just put you down even more. Because you're like, what's the point, right? And then I think the more kind of time you have, the more you start kind of processing things. And you're like, you know what, maybe it's not that bad, right? That's when I kind of started kind of looking up surgery protocols, recovery protocols. And then you realize that people have done it before, right? And the more you kind of look into it, the more you kind of research it, the more you realize that it's a lot more kind of achievable than people think, right? So that's when the kind of switch kind of flipped, right? And I was like, you know what? Like, if other people can do it, so can I, right? So that's when I started just kind of delving into all the kind of research, reading up about the process. And I was like, you know what? Now I'm at this point, I'm here already, right? The most I can do is kind of make the most out of it, right? So I flipped the switch and I was like, now the only goal I have is to get back on the pitch in the best kind of shape and format that I can, right? So at that point, which I think was like 1-2 weeks, to be fair, I was lucky I had like a 2-week kind of buffer before my surgery. So like 1 or 2 days before my surgery, I was like, you know what, like, let's do this. You know, I went in for my surgery and then I was like, you know, as soon as surgery is done, that's going to be day one. I was trying to document as much as I could just to kind of keep myself accountable. And yeah, it was day one, day two, and then all the way back till when I was playing.
Amazing, man. And like this time again, when you're ready to flip the switch, so there's a pattern here, right? You love to, essentially when you're going through anxiety or endeavoring something that's quite difficult, you like to plan, right? So again, you put pen to paper and you're planning out a roadmap of the gap between where you were and where you wanted to be. So where did this come from, bro? This mindset to, because I love it. I think a lot of people should do that because visualize. I think we are always cluttered with positive and negative thoughts. More often than not, I would say most of them are probably negative and they're also recurring. But I think people don't understand the power of visualization. Writing it down and putting a picture on your wall, actually visualizing it, and you've done that time and time again. And so where did that come from, and how does that work for you?
Came from my dad. So it was a thing we did growing up to set goals, New Year resolutions. Like I said, at that time, I thought it was dumb. I would do it forcefully.
As any kid would.
Yeah, do it forcefully. Like, what's the point of this, But as I grew older, when I was 16, 17, social media was a thing. When I started seeing my idols kind of do it, people I looked up to, both in a sports realm and a business realm, started listening to podcasts, they would talk about goal setting and stuff like that. Then I was like, okay, now it makes sense, So it had to come out from someone else's mouth for me to kind of believe it, although I'd been doing it from a young age, So I think that routine had kind of been built in me from a young age, but I needed, I think, a third party to kind of validate it for me. Yeah.
And okay, now let's go into what that process looks like of your goal setting. Just give me an example of something you've done recently or something you've even, take the time out, sit down, write down what your goals are, and then building a roadmap. And then after that, also holding yourself accountable to it, because a plan without execution, it's negligent, it's redundant, right? So
I think for me, like, I enjoy the planning phase, right? I enjoy putting down my thoughts onto a paper because it allows me to see the bigger picture, the whole picture, right? From A to Z, right? So how I like to do it is I start with the end goal. What am I working towards? What is the ultimate goal? And then work back from that, right? So if it's like a 6-month goal, like let's say for an ACL recovery context, like my end goal was, obviously you're not going to start a game straight after your injury, but to come off the bench onto the field, right? So I had that vision in my head.
So you actually visualize it like...
Exactly, yeah. Obviously, I couldn't visualize the exact game is going to be on, but I could visualize the moment, right? Getting called by the coach to start warming up, getting off the bench, doing a quick warm over the side, the kind of fourth official kind of raising the number for the substitution, you going in, the feeling you're gonna feel.
Did you actually do all this? Actually, when during the planning phase?
I didn't write it down. I wrote down the end goal, but I had that visual image in my mind, right? And I think that was important because every time I felt like giving up or like the recovery wasn't going as smooth as it needed to be, I had that picture to kind of rely on, right? So from that end goal, I kind of worked backwards from that, right? So what do I need to do? So that is month 6. What I need to achieve by month 5. What I need to achieve by month 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And then break it down by kind of month, right? So in month 1, what am I going to be doing in week 1, week 2, week 3, right? So spoke to doctors, spoke to physios, kind of set milestones, small milestones, right? So by week 1, I need to kind of bend and straighten my leg to a certain degree, range of motion. By week 2, range of motion needs to increase. By week 3, I need to kind of start walking without crutches. Week 4, I need to be like in the pool. So it's simple kind of process goals, I think, for me, that can be ticked off. I think for me, the biggest satisfaction I feel is ticking a box off, you know? Whether it's a to-do list or a milestone or a goal, one of my biggest satisfactions in life, as sad as that sounds, is to tick a box.
Bro, I think that's amazing, bro. One thing I loved about what you said was this is also a medium for you to look at to deal with the struggle, right? I think whenever, I like to call it the valley of despair, right? Whenever you hit rock bottom and you're in the depths of like darkness or whatever, the worst thing you can do at that point is stay there, right? Not do it in action. And I think what helps for you to make those baby steps forward or out of that valley of despair is what you said, taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. So I think that's where the visualization comes in handy. I love that, bro. Sure, now let's move on to your new chapter, right? Business. So I followed this guy on YouTube, Blake Rocha. His YouTube's name is also Mr. 428. I'm not sure if you know. So he's at 22, he lost his minimum wage job as a server, and then he started an Airbnb portfolio, and he's running an 8-figure business right now, right? Doing really well. So his recent video, it was like a monologue. So he was in Italy in Lake Garda, and he recites his narrative, and it reminded me of you when we first met, of when you were in Perak, and you said you were struggling to, I think, get your minutes on the pitch, and you're itching because you wanted to do something. So tell me if this resonates to you, right? There was a tightness in my chest. There was a subtle twitch in my brain, looking for something to fix, and it happens every time I slow down. It's like my body forgets how to rest. It wants a problem to solve. It wants attention, conflict, and the next hit of dopamine. It remembers the fight before it remembers the stillness. Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
So talk me through that time in Perak where you were just itching to do something because you weren't really getting the minutes, you weren't really being able to perform on the pitch or, prove yourself. So your mind had to attach to something else.
I think I have to just go back a bit for that. So like I've always had to do like 2 things in life, right? So it was in school, it was study and football, right? And I think I've been kind of brought up in a way where you need to always have a plan B, right? Always have a backup plan if plan A doesn't go well, right? So ever since school, I'd always been kind of invested in 2 things, right? Same in college. I was in college, in uni, and playing. When I got into PJ City, at that time I started like an online coaching business. So I was in online coaching.
Transform Fitness, right?
Yeah, online coaching and football. But then I think I read a few books, can't remember exactly what it was, or watched a few videos. But there was a kind of switch, or like where it was like, why have a plan B when you could invest 100% in plan A, right? Because when you have a plan B, your kind of efforts and thoughts are kind of distributed.
You're sort of like planning
for failure. So I read about stuff like that and I was like, okay, maybe that's it. Maybe I've always been kind of too spread out with 2 things that I haven't been able to excel in my plan A, right? So that was just at the time I had signed for Perak, and it was going to be signing for one of the biggest states in Malaysia with a new development squad. I felt that was the time I was going to fully invest into my football, right? But very quickly I realized that was not going to work for me. Because 3-4 months in, this is me 100% wake up, go to sleep, eat lunch, just thinking about football, right? But that's when and I felt very kind of low at that time. My girlfriend said it's probably the most like depressing at that time, because what ends up happening is your whole life revolves around that one thing, right? So when that one thing is not going well, right, then you don't have a life anymore. Obviously, if
you essentially build your identity around it, right?
correct. So like if in another scenario, if football was at an all-time high, maybe it would have been different, right? But my time at Perak was difficult from a football point of view. And that kind of just made my whole life shit because I had nothing else to look forward to, right? And I think like you said, it's not in the quote, right? Like I've got low-key ADHD or something like. I can't sit still and not think about it.
Have you actually gotten assessed?
No, I haven't. might have to, because I can't sit down and do nothing. I can't sit down and do my girlfriend hates it. She's like, why can't you just sit still for a while? For me, it's like not so much sitting still, but my mind needs to be like occupied with something, right? I rather have like 10 things planned in the day than sit down at home trying to figure out what to do or sit down and just like watch Netflix. Obviously, I love watching Netflix and stuff, but after a while, it's like, what can I do next?
There's more to life, right?
Yeah. So I think the idle state of mind for me allowed me to kind of drift into thoughts and spaces I didn't want to be in. For me, right? Obviously, I think it's very individual. Some people might be better, dedicating 100% of their effort into one thing. But for me, it's always like I need different things to think about. Because when one thing goes badly, then you've got other things to think about, right? So for me now, I like to kind of have different buckets, right, for each thing. Yeah.
Amazing, bro. How do you think your football career equipped you for the world of business?
Taught me how to deal with failure. So I think the thing about football is so many ups and downs, and things can happen so quickly, right? It's as quick as 2 seconds to tear your ACL. It's as quick as 5 minutes on the field to get dropped for the next game. You could have 2 or 3 bad moments. I think same as life, right? Football is very critical, right? People judge you on your failures, not on what you do well, right? So you could have, let's say you're playing for 90 minutes, right? You could have 80 minutes of really good football and then make few really bad mistakes towards the end of the game. You're dropped for the next match, right? So the footballing world is very, very competitive, right? It's one of the most competitive environments I've been in is because you've got 25 to 30 people in the squad, all fighting for 11 shirts, right? And sometimes it's not as, that still sounds like a lot, right? In the professional scene, you only compete for your position, right? So like as a winger, you've got 4 to 6 people competing for 2 spots, right? If you're a striker, you've got like 3 strikers competing for 1 or 2 spots, right? So the only thing people care about, whether you're their best friend or not, is how do I get your jersey, right? How do I get your spot in the starting 11 for the next match, right? So because you're so replaceable, it's a very kind of competitive environment. So you need to learn how to deal with that stress, constant stress of, am I playing next week? Am I not playing? What if I get injured? Who's like breathing down my back to take my spot? All those kind of things. Yeah.
Is it cutthroat? Can it be cutthroat?
It can. I don't think it. Like I was lucky that the environments I was in wasn't toxic in the sense where people are backstabbing each other and stuff like that. It was still a very good environment where everyone was kind of treated like family. But in the back of everyone's mind, as much as I love you as a friend, I still want your spot. Obviously, like in a corporate world, those kind of performance assessments come like quarterly or like annually, right? But here you're being assessed daily, right? And the footballing world is, everyone is kind of replaceable, right? Or I would say at least like 80% of the people are irreplaceable, right? So unless you're in like the top 20% bracket in the country, who will kind of have your spot sealed no matter where you go, the other 80%
Gotta work for it.
It's all based on current form. Because the difference is marginal, right? It's not like I'm significantly better than you so that I can kind of like chill and know that I've got my spot, right? Because the difference comes down to like 1%. If you're not focusing today, I can be better than you. If I'm not focusing today, you can be better than me. You know, it's about just kind of switching on, switching off kind of thing, right? Because
Momentum as well, right? Momentum plays a key role, I'm sure, in all of this.
and it's also football is also a subjective game, right? It's not like sprinting where if my time's faster than you, I'm gonna compete. You're not, right? Football is the coach's perception of you. Do you fit the coach's playing style? Do you fit the game plan for the next game against the opponent, right? He might want a slightly taller guy for the next game for certain reasons, you know? So a lot of it sometimes is beyond your control as well, right? So I think what I think, just to summarize, what football taught me is, one, deal with failure. Two, realize that some things are kind of beyond your control. The third thing is, I think, just be able to kind of adapt quickly, right? You'll be thrown in positions that you're not used to, not comfortable with, but you just need to kind of adapt, I guess. Yeah.
You know Ray Dalio, right? Do you know Ray Dalio? So Bridgewater, so he's founder of that. So recently Stephen Bartlett had him on his show. Do you listen to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm halfway through it.
So there's this amazing mantra that Ray Dalio shared that he says every morning is something. He said, I pray that I have the serenity to accept that is out of my control. I pray that I have the power to control that is in my control, and I pray that I have the wisdom to tell the difference between the two. So I think yeah, going back to one of the three things you learn from your footballing career is that there's going to be so many things that's out of your control. It's about how you make the most of what is in your control, and at the same time you can't be too bogged down by, like, for example, your injury, right? Your ACL injury. If you just sustain yourself in that phase where you've just been watching Netflix and stuff, it would have just taken longer, because I know the time frame is 6 to 9 months, but you took like 6 months, right? So you made it a point to recover as quickly as possible. Yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to businesses, right? So RetraRecovery is an e-commerce brand that you started. So how about you just give some background into it?
RetraRecovery, I think, just happened kind of overnight. Looking for opportunities with one of my friends. We were in a coaching course at that time. So me and my friend Rani, we were in a coaching course, talking about business, talking about opportunities. I'd seen this kind of portable recovery thing that I'd seen online, and I was like, shit, that's like a direct pain point for me. As a professional footballer, we had to travel a lot. And every time we traveled, we had 10,000 things to carry. You know, you've got your supplements, you've got all your kit, you've got your boots. And then you've got your recovery items, like your foam roller and stuff like that. And I had that picture in my mind where every time we go for a game, we'd be lugging like 2-3 bags. On top of that, carrying a foam roller, which could never like fit in any of the bags, right? So I was like, what if we were to kind of do something like this in Malaysia, right? A retractable foam roller. And immediately he was like, shit, that's a very good idea. So like, without thinking too much, we found a factory that could produce it. The name RetraRecovery started off as RetraRoll. So we only rebranded to RetraRecovery later on when we introduced more products. But essentially, when it first started, it was just a one product business. RetraRoll, Retra short for retractable. So again, just on Canva, playing around with the logo, very kind of, out of our home kind of thing, business. But yeah, I think the demand at the start started a bit slow. Then we got on like Shopify with a good friend of mine who's now a partner. He started working on like the Facebook ads and stuff like that. And yeah, I think business kind of took off, doing like 100, 200 sales a month. And yeah, then we decided to kind of venture into more products, try to scale it a bit more. So yeah, now what RetraRecovery is still e-commerce business. We've got 6 products that we do, and slowly starting to do a bit more activation, branding with communities and stuff like that as well.
So how many businesses do you currently actively operate?
Currently 2. 2 with full-time jobs, so 3.
So RetraRecovery, Balr Cutz.
And I work in a company called Sports Intel. Yeah.
I think one thing I admire about you, Sunil, is your ability to quickly turn an idea into an actual product or service. So you started a coaching business before, and then RetraRecovery, like you said, like the idea was just overnight, but your ability to execute it seamlessly, and not seamlessly, but quickly. And I think that ties into maybe your confidence in dealing with failure. You're not too afraid, like fail fast, fail quickly, right? So talk me through that. Like what is the process you go through when you get an idea, and then okay, let's turn this into a reality.
I think for me, again, I think you have to boil it back down to football, right? In football, you don't have much time to think, right? Decisions have to be made on the spot. So I think that kind of taught me that to act fast, right? So for me, like I think I don't know, it's a natural thing, but I'm always just kind of looking for opportunities, right? I feel like I've got more hours in the day than I need, right? So I always feel like there's hours in the day that I can fill with more kind of productive things. By productive things, I mean things that's going to either make me learn, make me enjoy myself, as in sports, or make me money, right? So for me, I think my process is I identify an opportunity, I have an idea. I like to call my friends. I'll call the person I feel is most relevant to that idea, right? Bounce the idea off them. Good or bad, I don't know. My friends always like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. So I think for most of the businesses I've started, if I had gone to someone with a bit more kind of business experience, they would have straight away been like, oh, that's not going to work because of this, right? Which is very fair, I think, right? Because I think the more experience in business you get, the more clear
Wisdom you have, business wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. The more wisdom you have in terms of what would work and what would fail, right? The minute they hear an idea, they know exactly where the loopholes are, right? Lucky enough, I went to people who had no kind of business experience. So with them, it was always like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Without actually thinking about the business, just thinking on a surface level of the idea, right? So our first business was Frey Foods, a meal prep company, and then Transform Fitness, and then the City League, all those different things. All very kind of surface level ideas, but got the approval I needed very quickly. And then as soon as I got the approval from them, then it's like, oh yeah, one other person believes in it. So what can we do? How can we start it? Like, how can we start it now? And the thing about me is I'm also very kind of like, I need to do it now, right? I hate waiting. So like if I've got the idea, I'm super passionate about it straight away.
Itching to get it out there.
Itching to get up and running. And like I said, I love the whole kind of planning phase of it. So straight away, like stop everything else, get a pen to paper, work out how we're going to start this, and then learn as I go, So with almost everything I've done, I've started it as fast as I could. It might have been, looking down hindsight, could have been better if maybe I waited a bit for some of the things. I planned it a bit more. But I think it's more so, like I said, just learn as I go. So that is my kind of process. Trying to find one or two other people. Initially, when I first started businesses, I always liked doing it with people. I think that joy and that, I think, the idea of bouncing ideas off each other, I liked.
Also, in a way, I guess you spread out the risk, right?
Correct. To be fair, like I said, most of the businesses I did at the start were not very capital intensive. So there wasn't any major risk. It was like win or just stop. Like not win or lose,
Like limited downside with.
Correct. Very, very limited downside, right? At most, I lose time, right? I lose time that I've invested in it. I think all the businesses I've started, maybe up to Balr Cutz, I think were less than 1,000 ringgit upfront, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
For Balr Cutz and RetraRecovery, what were your initial?
okay, RetraRecovery is a bit more. RetraRecovery, I think we put in like 5,000 initially each, so it was about 10,000. So business-wise, that would have been the kind of biggest investment before Balr Cutz. I had obviously done other investments on the sides, like stocks and stuff, which I had invested a lot more and lost a lot more. But from a business point of view, everything else was very much invest as little as I can, start generating the profits, and then reinvest the profits, I was distributing Output Sport, which is a fitness wearable tech. That one, the investment upfront was about 5,000 as well. So all very, I think, minimal risk with potential upside. So for me, it's always start as fast as I can, identify the flaws. Worst case scenario, if I find a flaw and I notice this business is not going to scale, then the goal just becomes to recuperate the investment, right? So with a lot of businesses, that was the case. Most businesses that I'm not doing anymore now is because I've either recuperated the investment and stopped, or made a slight profit and realized the profit margins weren't big enough, and then decided to kind of stop as well. Yeah.
Okay. I want to touch more on on RetraRecovery, right? Because it's an e-commerce business, which is like the business of the 21st century, right? Every 20-year-old kid, every 30-year-old adult, wants to start an e-commerce business, do drop shipping, like set up a Shopify store and stuff. But having actually done it and scaled it to a decent size, talk me through the reality of it. So you talked about the initial capital requirement, but what are the main cost drivers, operational cost drivers that is required for you to start and sustain and scale an e-commerce brand?
So I think like for me, like a lot of it was learning, right? So a lot of the costs you don't see with an e-commerce business, right? For me, as someone who didn't have much business experience, it was very much like, okay, what is the cost price of the roller? How much can I sell it for, right? That's going to be my profit. Simple. Selling price minus cost price equals profit. I wish it was like that, but it's not, right? So you've got back-end costs that you have to pay for, like Shopify, for instance, it's a subscription that you need. Delivery costs, you've got transaction fees. Marketing costs is a big thing for an e-commerce business, especially when you don't have the volume that you need, right? Because your cost per eyeball, your cost per reach is relatively high, right? So I think marketing cost is a big thing. So after deducting all that, you realize your margins are not very big as well, right? So I think...
What are the margins?
So for us, we do around 30% now. When we first decided on the selling price, right, we thought it'd be like 50%, 50-60%.
30% is decent though.
It's not too bad. It could be better if you have more volume, I think. But yeah, 30% is not too bad. But again, this is without the three of us taking a salary. So there's not enough.
You just reinvest.
Correct. So we've got profits in the business that we reinvest, that we will take out eventually. But for now, it is very much just, yeah.
What percentage of your cost base is attributed to your marketing? Would you like a ballpark estimate?
20%, yeah.
20%, okay. The other day when you were telling me initially you guys were selling on Shopee, right? And it wasn't working because of all these Chinese brands and stuff, and it was hard to develop USP. Then you brought on your partner. So talk me through that.
So when my friend Rani and I first started it, we thought it was going to be as simple as have a cool product, create some funny ads or some funny videos on social media with a link to a platform like Shopee, and we thought that flow would be enough, right? Create a good video, people be intrigued, what is this product? Click on a link, purchase the product. Our process was that simple. That's what we thought was going to happen. Tried, didn't work. Realized that Shopee was, wouldn't say too cheap for a product, but had too many cheap alternatives for the product, right? So when you've got Retro Roll at that time on Shopee, and people click on the link, they get suggested a whole bunch of other products as well, right? So you've got kind of Retro Roll as your main thing, and then you've got around it all these other products. So we were at that time charging 129 for a roller, and you get a roller, not retractable, just your traditional roller for like 15-20 bucks. So when you have that, people start to compare and justify, right? They're like, oh, do I really need to spend this extra 100 ringgit on something that's retractable when I can just carry my foam roller, right? So I think in that sense, it was quite bad because a lot of e-commerce businesses rely on impulse, right? Impulse buying. So a very good ad that addresses a pain point, person feels the pain point, click, buy, done. They may regret the decision after that. But a lot
Buyer's remorse.
Yes, a lot of it is impulse buying, right? So yeah.
So what did you do after to deal with that? So you brought someone on board and
Yeah, so we started speaking to another friend of ours who he's got a social media digital marketing agency. He was sort of advising, and he said, first of all, your ad campaigns need to be better, more targeted, more specific, and then second thing is you need to kind of work on building your own website, right? At least that way you direct people to a direct sales funnel, right? They land on a landing page, and then go through a sales funnel before purchasing. So he eventually, like, he was giving us a lot of, I think, good value with his advice. So we're like, you know what, like, we could do with an extra hand. Why don't you come on board as like one of our partners? We're a close friend anyway. So yeah, he came on board. I think this was like 3-4 months after starting RetraRoll at that time. Came on board, sales kind of took off a bit. Started, I think, doubling, tripling our volume. And then, yeah, it came down to the question of, can we scale this now, right? The problem with our business or our products is that it's a very one-off product. You're never going to get a repeated purchase, right? Once you have a roller, you're not going to need another roller, right? And our products, I think, are very durable, right? So it's not like it's going to break in like 3 months or 6 months where you need to buy a new roller, right? So that's where we realized our kind of ceiling was, right? And logistics-wise, just didn't make sense for us to sell or expand beyond Malaysia, right? So that's where we realized there's a kind of ceiling to the game or to the business or to our RetraRecovery business, right? So yeah, we realized like, okay, let's maintain that ceiling, but just try to get as close to the ceiling as possible. Yeah.
have you ever dealt with burnout?
Yeah, for sure. I think
Give me a memory of yours where you dealt with significant burnout.
I think it was when I got my second ACL injury. I was dealing with all, I think, stress from the injury as well as like business stress. At that time, I just didn't feel like doing anything at all. To be fair, I got into a very kind of like significant, I think, argument with my dad as well. Because my dad is very much like me. So a lot of, I think, the good traits I have, I think I got from my dad. Very like on it, needs to be very proactive with things, needs to have like 10,000 things going on in his life. So at that time when I was like fully burnt out, like literally didn't feel like doing anything. I was staying with my parents at that time. I was literally just on the couch on my phone, watching Netflix for 3-4 weeks, right? And he was like, like, you need to get up and do something. And I got into like quite a big argument with him. I was like,
Because of that,
I was like I'm in no mood to do anything, like you've always pushed me to like achieve this, achieve that. It's never been enough for me, for you.
you said that.
I did. So got into a very big argument, and then like, I think he also got, I think, quite hurt by it as well, right? Because I said a lot of harsh things at the time. Because like, to be fair, I wasn't in the right state of mind as well. And so I said it was a good thing that he's always kind of pushed me. Like it was like never enough, right? Achieve something, think about the next thing. Achieve something, think about the next thing, right? I think that's one of my biggest strengths now. Is like I'm never kind of like complacent. Like if I achieve something, I was like, okay, good, but now what's next? What's next? And that's, I think, something that he taught me. But at that point of time,
That's not what you wanted to hear.
I didn't want to hear that, and I was like, you know what, like, all this is like your fault. Like I'm never kind of like I'm never like happy in my life because I'm always pushing for the next thing. But now in hindsight, I'm thinking it was like just like burnout, right? Like he came from a good place. His advice was good. By that time, like I just didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to think about business. Like like just now we talked about like being when I was injured, right? Being in a place where the avoidance, right? The avoidance. At that time, it was like complete avoidance. Didn't want to think about anything productive because it just made me feel like worse or made me feel like more tired. So yeah, at that time I was like, yeah, no. And then I think I've had burnout from football quite a few times as well. When you kind of live, breathe, eat one sport, right?
I want to go back to the argument with your dad, right? At that point in time, did you not feel enough?
Feel enough of what?
Just generally.
No, but I think he kind of made me feel that way. Like like what I was doing at that time wasn't enough, which was fair because those 3-4 weeks I was just kind of lazing around doing jack shit at home. But obviously there was still a lot kind of going on in my life, but it was still doing RetraRecovery. I was still doing all these other businesses, all just kind of operating in the background, but like I wasn't really investing much time into it just because I just didn't have the capacity to.
What was the resolution? I'm curious, between you and your dad. What happened?
To be fair, I don't think we ever kind of spoke about it, but I think just time kind of healed it. Yeah, we didn't talk for like 1 or 2 months, which is quite a lot. I mean, like I never actually like fought with my parents.
And you were still at home, right? Like living under their room.
Yeah, the shit was still living under their roof. To be fair, like as soon as the argument happened, a lot of the kind of harsh words kind of transferred or like delivered on text. I texted him like a long ass message after that.
Oh, okay. Oh, it wasn't in person.
Started off in person and then I just kind of lashed out on
That was a sequel as well.
yeah, it was like a sequel. So I just like lashed out on text. I think for me it was just easier to kind of get across like every point that was in my head. Right? So I sent him like this long ass text. I remember with like everything I was thinking about. A lot of kind of built up emotions as well.
Have you ever gone for therapy, bro?
No, I haven't. I should have, I don't know.
I think it's interesting because if for you to send a long text like that after already confronting him in person, like I guess like you said, it was things that you were thinking about for months, if not years, right?
Yeah, true. So I think it was the conversation happened. Like he came and spoke to me. Like I wasn't prepared for the conversation, and just a lot of emotion. It wasn't a long conversation. It was like 5-10 minutes, and then I left for like lunch or whatever, like abruptly because my girlfriend came to pick me up for lunch. Something we had planned before. And then I felt like I left the conversation hanging and there was a lot that I had to kind of just like tell him. But I knew I wouldn't have been able to do it in person because I wouldn't be able to get like all the points off as clearly as I needed to. So I was like, I'll just text him this. I texted him like this long ass message and he just replies with, can we talk? And I just didn't respond to that. So I think he's also like me, okay? In the sense that we like to like get solutions there and then, right? Like we don't like being
Dragging it out. There's no point, right?
like if there's an argument, like even with my girlfriend's the same. Like if there's an argument, I want to like solve it there and then, right? She's very much like avoidant, like avoid. But for me, it's like there's a problem, you solve it there and then, right? My dad's like that as well. By that time, I really just didn't want to talk about anything or solve anything. So I just left it be, and then, like I said, yeah, it was very kind of not even high by, just like talk if we needed to for like I don't know 2-3 months. And like I said, I'll take the blame. It's on me for not wanting to address it. But I think with time, slowly just start talking again, and then yeah.
I think generally, just piggybacking off of this, I think generally confrontation is something that many people aren't good at, but I think it's a very important skill to have, especially in the world of business as well, right? How do you think you deal with confrontations, aside from this incident?
Yeah, I'm not good. Could be better. I think I'm not as harsh or firm as I need to be sometimes.
Give me an application of that.
Can't think of a specific one, but if it's like something bad happens, I will kind of raise it to you, right? Hoping that you would kind of realize and then act on it. But a lot of the time, especially like in Malaysia, it's like I highlight it to you, you'll find an excuse, and then it's kind of brushed off, you know? As opposed to me kind of confronting you, addressing it there and then solving it and moving on, right? I think I'm good at confronting in some cases better than others. If it's just me and someone I trust, then it's way better. But if it's just strangers or people I'm not that close to, then I think need to get better with it. As simple as like going out for a meal, right? And the food comes subpar, right? I wouldn't like complain to the waiter or send it back. For me, it's like, oh, I'll just deal with it and eat it, you know? But I know some people who'd be like, you know, this is not up to expectations, so I'm going to kind of confront the waiter, confront the chef about it, you know? Simple as that.
Can you think of occasions, or do you think this trait holds you back in any aspect of your life? Like not being able to confront like head on?
Yes, I wouldn't say it holds me back, but I think I get taken advantage of sometimes because of that, right? So they know that I'm not gonna confront or get pissed at them, so they'll kind of take advantage.
You've actually seen this, like you felt people taking advantage?
I don't really notice it, but I think people around me notice it. So like my girlfriend notices it, my friends notice it. You know, people like just.
Give me an example. I'm curious of someone, maybe it's a colleague. We don't have to mention names out here, but where maybe you didn't notice, but someone pointed it out to you.
I can't think of a specific instance, but it's as simple as like, okay, let's say we're in like this business together, doing this work together, right? And we've all got certain tasks to do, right? You've got your task that you've got on your plate, I've got my task that I need to do on my plate. But your tasks are due, right? So I'm usually the one kind of coordinating and organizing everything. So I'll like follow up with people a lot, like, hey, like, Sharvin, like, have you done this yet? And then you're like, oh, no, not yet. I'll get to it soon. Okay, I'll follow up again a few days later, right? Like, hey, have you done this? He's like, oh, no, not yet, right? Instead of me kind of confronting you like, bro, why are you not doing your shit? Your shit needs to be done now because it's due now. I'm just like, okay, sure. Because I buy the excuse, or I buy the fact that you're like, oh yeah, you'll get to it. I believe that and I trust that, right?
You give people the benefit of the doubt.
Correct, a lot of the times. Then what ends up happening was like, you know what? Instead of confronting you and solving it, it's like, I'll just do your work, right?
You do that?
Yeah, so it's like, I was like, okay.
Bro, you're a great boss, bro.
It's like, if you're like so busy, never mind, like, I've got some time, so I'll just finish it up, you know? So a lot of the times I end up doing stuff for other people that's not within my kind of job scope or part of my tasks, just so that I can kind of take it off. And because sometimes I've got like other people's kind of to-do list on my to-do list as well, really? Right? Just so that I remind myself to follow up, right? Because like, even if it's not my to-do list, right? But if it's got the business on the line, I think it's my responsibility to make sure it's done, right? So if it's not my to-do list, I won't remember. Like I put everything on a list, right?
Like just on your phone or?
Phone, yeah. So I've just got like notes for a to-do list and everything's in my calendar. So yeah, so even if it's not my responsibility, I would put your responsibility on mine just to make sure I'm following up on it, you know? So in that sense, I say, I'm a girlfriend be like, why are you doing the work? It's not your job, right? I was like, no, it's okay, you know? So in that sense, I would say my confrontation skills could be better. Like, I should confront you, I should tell you that it's your responsibility. Maybe be a bit harsh, I think, so it doesn't happen again. But yeah.
Okay, a couple more questions, bro. One is, having managed so many businesses, currently also, you got 2 businesses and a full-time job as well, right? How do you balance chasing new opportunities while staying focused on your core businesses?
I think, so now I've got a full-time job. I do sports consulting. So now it's been more difficult because you've got one sort of fixed commitment, right? Which requires a certain number of fixed hours in a day. Prior to this, it was always easy balancing because all the hours were kind of flexible, right? So even if I was running like 5-6 different businesses, or I had 5-6 different commitments, it was on me to kind of organize it, right? So move it around as I wish, just so I can kind of do all 5 things, right? So prioritizing it based on urgency and stuff like that. But now, because a certain number of hours is kind of blocked out on this one thing, on this one job, it's a bit less flexible, right? So now I need to use my kind of off time, my after work hours and nights, my free time, weekends, to actually do all these other things.
So I know you've mentioned to me before that you have a few mentors, like within business you have Rowan and stuff like that, and within the footballing world as well. You know, throughout your story, throughout this past hour, you've mentioned a few people that you've seek advice from and stuff. What is the best and worst advice you received, just in general? Can be life, can be business.
Yes, like I struggle with these kind of things with like one specific thing, right? Because I've just got a lot of different merged ideas. Best advice. I think my best advice would be.
Let me rephrase it, right? If maybe this might be a way to like help you think of whatever comes to your mind. I like to ask this question: if your story were to be written in a book, what would be the title of the book?
Something along the lines of like ups and downs. I think my life has been
Tell
like
me the line, bro.
the line.
Tell me the line. Take your
To be
time.
fair, okay, do that. I had thought about this before. It's not coming to me now. Like, thought about like if I had a book, what the title would be, and I had a title. I just don't know why it's not coming to me now. But it's along those lines of like, because I feel like as good a life as I've lived, you know, with a lot of the things had been given to me and stuff like that. I came from a decent family, a decent life growing up. I think I've had a shit ton of obstacles that I've had to cross, right? So for me, it's always been like coming back up from rock bottom, you know. Like, we didn't touch on this just now, but like I've had like 2 lung surgeries, which I think kept me out for like 6 months each. And it's not an injury, it's a
Wait, how old were you when this happened?
16 and 19. So it's like a super, super rare case. Again, nothing I could have done, nothing, it's just happened, you know? Stuff like that, stuff like being dropped in the last minute. All these different things, I think, put me at like a very low point. But I feel I've always kind of been able to bounce back, right? So yeah, I think a good advice, I mean, not word for word, but it was along the lines of don't kind of dwell in your failures, right?
Don't let your failure define you.
Correct. And I think there's always more opportunity out there than people see, right? So every time like I failed in something, my parents would always kind of play it down, right? Like I said, at that point of time, it felt like shit. It's like, oh, why are you making it seem like it's nothing? But like in hindsight, it's like because it was nothing. You know what I mean? So like being dropped from the Malaysian under 13 team at that time was like my whole world, right? That was like the only thing I was thinking about, right? But now thinking back at it, whether I was on the team or not on the team, wouldn't have made a difference, you know, because the world of opportunities is a lot bigger than that.
It came again, right? Twice.
It came again. And like I said, being dropped on the under 19 team also, you know, it was, at that time, it was everything. But now, whether I played or not for that team may not have really made a difference, you know? And I think up till today, it's the same thing. Obviously, when it happens now, it feels like the biggest thing that's happened to you, right? Like, when you have an injury, it feels like the worst thing that's happened to you. When you have a problem, it feels like it's the biggest problem you have to deal with. But you get through it, and then you look back at it, and you realize, you know what? Like, there's a lot of bigger things that I've dealt with, you know? Like, the problems will continue to get bigger.
Yeah, I think there's this quote. You can connect the dots in looking back, but it's hard to connect the dots looking forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah.
What's the worst advice that you received?
Okay, so like in the football world, okay, so it's not the worst advice, but I feel generic advice is the worst advice, right? So in the football world, coaches say stupid shit like focus, right? Like you're doing shooting practice and you're missing shots and they're like focus. But like, what is focus, right? Do better, you know? So I feel when people give generic advice, like you need to be better, you need to focus, you need to work harder, it's all very kind of generic bullshit that people are saying shit because they don't know what advice to give, right? So like, for me, it's like, if you want to give advice to someone, first of all, I think you need to like, know that you're in a position to give advice, right? I wouldn't go give advice to people that I don't think I deserve to give advice to, right? And second thing is, I think the advice needs to be very specific, right? So like, how is my advice really going to improve that person, right? Specific. Can I tell you exactly one point in your life that you can improve and work on? Yeah. So I think I've received a lot of generic advice, and most of the time I'm just like listening to it and nodding my head. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know, it's
It just goes into one ear out the other.
yeah. I'm sure you see in the gym as well. Some people just come up to you and just like give you like random pieces of advice as well. And like sometimes it's like, you know,
I think I'm the guy, bro. I think I'm the guy.
Sam has told me, but he says you give you good advice, so it's fine. So yeah.
No, thank you so much, Sunil, for your time. I think I definitely learned a lot personally from today. I think what I admire about you is, again, I want to emphasize on this, your ability to bounce back quickly. I think the difference between the top 1%, call it that, and the rest is the ability to manage setbacks, the bounce back, right? I think it's It's that time you stay. So going back to what I said, the value despair is how long do you spend the value despair? The time between when the incident happens and then flipping the switch. I think you do that very effectively. And I think the way you do that is through visualization and planning for the future. So now I really appreciate your time, man. If people want to find out more about you, RetraRecovery, Balr Cutz, where can they find out more about your Instagram?
Everything's on my Instagram, yeah.
What's your ad, bro?
Sunil Chandran at Sunil Chandran 99, I think. So I don't know, that's my ad. Let me check. Sunil.Chandran99.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one.
All right, thanks.
Cheers, bro.
All right, bro.